Hi guys, CP here from CP's Kitchen. Today's video is going to be strictly on herbs and spices. I'm going to try and tell you what the difference is. The difference between an herb and a spice. Both herbs and spices come from plants, sometimes the same plant. It depends on which part of the plant is what makes the difference. Herbs such as basil, cilantro, and tarragon are leaves of plants. Spices, they can be cloves, ginger, I have some fresh ginger back there, or cinnamon bark, which the cinnamon bark is sitting right in front there, front and center. It says cinnamon sticks. Some people assume that fresh herbs must be better than dried, but sometimes that's not the case. In some recipes, I find that I prefer fresh herbs. Those fresh herbs will sometimes be used at the end of the meal, and that's so that it can maintain its freshness and still look bright and green. Let's see. Adding herbs too early, I was just talking about that, especially delicate leaved herbs such as cilantro, basil, and tarragon can rob of the flavor and color, and that's what I was speaking of earlier. Rosemary is an exception to that rule. Because their leaves are a little tougher, you can put that rosemary directly in your meal as it's cooking, and it'll permeate throughout the cooking process. When substituting dried herbs for fresh, keep in mind that the dried herbs are much stronger than the fresh herbs, so you cannot use an equal amount. The general rule is 1 teaspoon of dried herbs is the equivalent of 1 tablespoon of chopped fresh herbs. And of course, as I stated earlier, you'll put the dried herbs in earlier in the cooking process. Many dried herbs are available in whole leaf and ground forms, with the exception of sage and some other whole leaf dried herbs like the bay leaves that I got sitting back there. Those bay leaves are considered a whole leaf dried herbs. They retain their flavor better, and I use that in all of my meals, whatever I'm cooking, because that basically is a flavor enhancer. And you can buy the bay leaves fresh or dried like I have it there, but as I said here, it retains its flavor a little better, the dried portion. The maximum flavor from whole leaf dried herbs such as oregano and thyme, you can crumble them in a dish for cooking, and that's when it releases its flavor. If you look back there, I have a mortar and pestle. The mortar is the bowl, and the pestle is the apparatus that I use. That was used back in the day to ground up spices. So if I wanted to ground up my cinnamon or those cloves there in front, I would put that in my mortar or pestle, and I can then ground it up. When buying dried herbs and spices, please do not overstock. I usually go to the bulk store at Eastern Market, and I get all of the herbs that I need, and I try to get them in a small portion because their shelf life is, well, I've read 9 months. Food Network chefs have told me a year. So I'm going to say anywhere between 9 months to a year, these herbs and spices, the dried ones that you're looking at, will stay in your pantry. How will you know if they're still fresh? Just open the jar. You need to keep them first in a tightly screwed jar so that they can maintain their freshness for as long as possible. And then when you open it, just smell it. If it doesn't smell like oregano, or if it doesn't smell like cilantro, then it's probably time to get rid of it and go and buy some more. So since using whole spices such as cinnamon sticks, or like I have back there, some nutmeg. If you see that's in a jar there, whole. I used that in a recipe earlier, in an earlier episode. Those release flavor more slowly than ground spices. They are best used in dishes that require long simmering. So if you're going to make a stew or something that you want to simmer long, then it's best to use your cinnamon sticks and your whole nutmeg. Now you can also toast your ground spices to enhance the flavor of the spice. And you do that by putting it on a dry frying pan. Try to do that on low heat, because if you burn it, it adds bitterness and you'll have to discard it. But definitely toasting your ground herbs will enhance the flavor of, the spices. Toasting the ground spices will enhance the flavor of the spices before using them in your dishes. I have chili powder. I think I have some curry powder over there. And I forgot to pull out my paprika. But those are considered dry spices, that can be toasted in a dry pan over the stove. Okay, I hope that I have given you some good information. What I'm going to do next is basically kind of give you a little idea of what I use these spices that I have and herbs. So I'm going to briefly tell you, I'm going to start with the basil. And I find basil can be used with strawberries, watermelon, salad dressings. I can ground that up or chop that up and add it in some salad dressings. It has sort of a minty taste, but it smells, it can really, really light up your kitchen, people. It really smells phenomenal. Next, parsley. Parsley goes with everything. Right there I have curly leaf parsley. I prefer flat leaf parsley, but they didn't have any in the stores before I shot this episode. But both are just the same. You can use it in any dish at all. It enhances flavor. I use it as a garnish a lot on my plates. Parsley is just one of those herbs that you should keep in your home. Thyme. Thyme is considered woodsy, earthy. You can kind of put that in stews and beef, your steaks. It'll go good. Thyme will go good. You can also buy what is known as lemon thyme. It has more of a lemony type flavor. That's good too. Rosemary. I use rosemary all the time. If you watch my episode with the lamb chops, which you haven't because I haven't put it out yet, but it's coming soon. I used rosemary, fresh and dried. And right there you're looking at the fresh and the dried rosemary. You can also use that in pork chops and your spare ribs. If you've never tried rosemary on your ribs in the summertime, people, try them. You won't even need barbecue sauce once you season them up with that rosemary. Okay? Let's flip over here to tarragon. Tarragon. I love tarragon. I use tarragon personally for béarnaise sauce. I currently have that tarragon because when I go off the air, I'm going to try to make a green goddess dressing that requires tarragon. So that's why I have such a large quantity. But it can also be used not only in my favorite béarnaise sauce for my beef. You can also use it with veal, chicken, and you can also put that in a salad dressing oil. It goes very well. Cilantro. I love cilantro. It's a Mexican staple. I use it in tacos. I use it in salads. I use it whenever I make my salsas. My corn salsa, my mango salsa. Cilantro has a pungent taste. Everybody does not like cilantro. It's pungent in taste, but it blends well if you use it right with the right foods. Okay, I have curry. That's an orange flavored. That's an orange powdered herb right there. Yes. Curry. I use that. I bet you guys know what to use that curry in, or what you've had it in before. Curry chicken. Pretty much curry chicken. If you've never tried curry goat, that's definitely good. Curry is used with goat and it's really, really good. I read somewhere that you can even make a curry sauce. Oregano. Where's my oregano? Right next to the thyme. The oregano goes well with all meats, chicken, beef, fish, it doesn't matter. That's one of those herbs that you can use dried or fresh, and it will really enhance the flavor of your food. Cloves. Okay, the cloves. Now people, you see that jar is very low. I don't use cloves a lot. It's very strong in taste. I do know you can use it in ham. It can spice up some rice, and you can use it in meats or stews, but I don't use it that often. It's very, very strong. Cinnamon. My cinnamon, I love it, ground or the sticks. I make tea. I make my own tea, and I use those cinnamon sticks a lot. We'll talk about that tea maybe on a segment, but I make my own tea, and I use the cinnamon sticks, and I like to use them also in chai tea, my yams. You can use them in pork chops, and that's the same for that ground nutmeg. Same thing, my chai tea, my yams, pork chops. As a matter of fact, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I use that ground nutmeg, that whole nutmeg, in just about every dish, and that is what makes the difference in some of my recipes. Okay, now you know it. Don't say I didn't tell you. All right, and that fresh ginger there, you can use it for a variety of things. I add that in a lot of my Asian dishes. Asian beef, Asian chicken. If I'm making a sauce, that fresh ginger goes very well. It's a little spicy, a little peppery, but it's also a little sweet. Really, really good. So I hope that I've given you some good information today. Join me next week, and I'll be using some of these herbs and spices. All right, thanks for watching. If you like this episode, please hit the thumbs up button, and if you'd like to see more, please hit that red subscribe button, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye for now.